Hello, everyone. This is Manny with the LARP.com crew, and today we are interviewing Kyle Chapman. How's it going, Kyle?
Hey, so far so good. How about you?
Good, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me. As you know, LARP.com is conducting this interview in order to get the true story of LARPers, and Kyle, today it's your turn to tell your story.
Woo!
All right, Kyle, so did you have any initial thoughts about what LARP meant before attending your first event?
So before, I don't know that I had any about what it meant, but I definitely had some ideas about what it was going to be. I think a lot of people who are new since the movie Role Models came out have that weird idea of a bunch of like really awkward people in a park playing pretend. Um, and I think to some extent that's true, but I think that that's like a really simplified version of what it is.
I agree. I've heard a lot of people talk about role models as well. So yeah, there's way more to it. So, what was your first event, Kyle?
So that one's a little hard to say. I think my first officially like thing called a LARP would have been Dystopia Rising, Florida, way back in November of 16. Yeah, would have been my very first game there. However, I did before that do at Gen Con. There is an event that is really big and it costs a lot of money. But it's called True Dungeon, and it is sort of LARPy in that you play as classic D&D classes, but you actually like explore rooms. They like make up these actual like rooms with lava in them, and they have NPCs that are like paid actors that come in and talk to your party. And then when you combat stuff, it's on a shuffleboard. So I could say that's my first one. Like, it's hard to know if that counts. But that is where I met the person who said, hey, if you like this, you should try LARPing. And so I guess like that was really cool.
So, for those of us who don't know what Dystopia Rising is, can you elaborate a little bit?
Sure. So Dystopia Rising is a dystopian survival horror game that focuses a lot on zombies. Um, it's actually recently or undergone a really big change in rules. Um, so before you had a job and skills specific to that job, and now there's a lot more openness, as in you can kind of take whatever skills work and then kind of create your story off of those instead of the other way around. But it is a networked LARP, which means that it happens in different states, kind of all over the US. Everyone plays by the same rules. And because of that, and because your character lives in a database, you are able to travel from game to game. So if I wanted to go to Washington and play, I would have the same character, the same experience that I've earned from my game at home, all the same skills, and we would all be playing by the same rules, so there would be no real learning curve as well.
So, that's really awesome. It's good to know for players who haven't been to a LARP like that. I myself never actually thought about DR that way. It is pretty interchangeable, so you could pretty much go to different chapters in each state. So, can you tell me, Kyle, is there anything that you wish you would have been better prepared for your first event?
Ooh. Um, Better prepared for. I wish that I had known maybe a bit more about what it's like to kind of be in character all the time. Um, like I came from a theater background, and improv doesn't really scare me or anything like that. But um, there's not really an off switch at a LARP, um, unless something is kind of um, severe. Like you can always go back to your cabin, and there's like not necessarily anything happening there, but sometimes there is. But at a LARP, really, I don't know, it's something that you don't really think about until you're there and you're living it.
Okay. So, those out of game moments can sometimes be very helpful if you're feeling overwhelmed. So, it is good to have a place to kind of disconnect when you need to. So, what kind of LARP would you say that you most often attend?
Most often, I guess I would say buffer LARP, if that's what you want to go with, if that's what you mean by type. Um, Genre, I would say, is probably fantasy now. Um, I kind of um, have stepped away from DR a bit. The game's kind of far away, and it just was easier to play something a bit more local. Obviously, Florida is a big state, so it happens in North Florida, and I'm in Orlando, so it's a bit of a drive. Um, but yeah, I would say most frequently Buffer LARP is what I'm playing, which is where you have the foam weapons and you're out there bopping each other, um, and then fantasy, of course, being like wizards and knights and stuff like that.
So, in these LARPs that you play in, what roles do you tend to gravitate towards the most?
Oh, I am always a supportive character. And even to drill down into that, I'm almost always someone who can do some sort of healing. So at DR, I was a doctor for 3 years. Um, and then at Mythic, which is the fantasy LARP that I play, I am a healing sorcerer that has invested very heavily in being able to make sure people don't stay dead.
Nice.
Um, I don't know, even in video games, multiplayer games, I'm like, let me be a supportive character. I do tend to be a very leadership driven character in that role. Whatever team or group I'm with, I'm like, hey, I'm in charge here, guys. We should do this thing.
Okay. So that's good to know, guys. If you haven't had the pleasure of playing in a LARP with Kyle, he's a fun guy to have around.
I try.
So, what would you say the most eventful LARP that you've attended so far is?
Oh, Lord. The most eventful LARP. Hmm. Maybe I'm gonna say Dragon Thrones because it's the most recent on my like mind, being that it was earlier this month. Um, but it was something new for them, because they this year did something that was less team focused and more individual focused. And I had the misfortune slash fortune of being the first character to die very early. And in that, for for ease of this interview, we'll say I made a deal with the devil, and then spent great deal of the rest of the game sabotaging other plans. The purpose of the game was to kind of beat this, let's call him an evil entity, though he turned out to not be super evil. But I did all kinds of different things to try and lead people down the wrong trail, or help them join our side instead of the good guy side. But so it was a lot of fun. I worked a lot with the storytelling staff to be make sure kind of two things, that everything that I was doing was not stuff that was going to hurt anyone else's fun, and then make sure that everything kind of fell in with the story and made sense and ran smoothly, so it didn't have to be like backtracked or anything that was kind of weird or nonsensical.
So in Dragon Thrones, tell us a little bit about Oscar, your character.
Okay, so Oscar's character, who initially was of royal blood and got passed over for the throne, much to his delight, as he would rather do things like throw parties, enjoy life, learn, read poetry, just be a smart, sarcastic socialite. He eventually finds a rock that stops his aging. So it's a stone with runes on it that is actually at your house. But the stone stops him from aging, so he kind of then lives out a great deal of time in hiding, because people think that he's dead, and obviously he isn't, and people can't live for 100 years without ever aging. But he just kind of lives out his life learning and being wild, until he is summoned to the castle that everyone gets summoned to, and like goes on this journey to defeat this evil god. And yeah, when he died, the Forgotten, that's at the time, that's what we thought the god's name was. And he just makes him a really good deal about what the rest of his life could look like. So he takes it, because Oscar cares mainly for himself.
Okay. So, how would you say that LARP has positively affected your life, Kyle?
I've met a lot of people. Some mostly good, some not so good. But I mean, even those people you can learn from and kind of grow. I've traveled a lot because of LARP, going to try new games or try the same game in a different area. I think there's a lot of, if you're willing to really dig deep into characters, you can learn a lot and experience a lot of things that you might be afraid to try in your real life, because in LARP there aren't any real consequences for anything you do. So like at Dystopia Rising, I played a character who grew to be the head of a mafia family, but it was a character who was male but was like a drag queen, and so my costume was like a skirt and a corset and like a wig and makeup, and it was a large production to become this character. But it opens up a lot of doors to try things like that. I have met some friends who started their tradition, or started their transition as a character because that just was easier for them and it was safer and it was around people they knew and trusted. So I think that kind of ability to experiment with different parts of yourself is really cool. I think that there are a lot of people too who have used it to help work through pieces that they don't really like about themselves. So if they like play a character who's really brave, let's say, and they don't think themselves very brave, it kind of subconsciously develops that habit within them by forcing themselves to do it because my character would do this. So I think that LARP has those like really cool positive benefits.
That's true. All very good points. So, Kyle, are there any upcoming events that you're looking forward to going to this year?
Yes, so many. I actually am doing a whole lot of traveling and kind of exploring to try a bunch of different things. So Dragon Thrones is doing their summer game in July or June.
I think it is July.
Okay, so in July I'm going to go up to Philadelphia and be a king in Dragon Thrones and hopefully help lead my kingdom to victory. I believe we're going to go do
Imperial?
Yeah,
Imperial.
We're doing, I'm trying to think, what else are we trying? We're trying out Crux, which is a buffer LARP in Maryland, Virginia, somewhere in that area. I'm doing Blood and Betrayal, which is a big Vampire the Masquerade like big event that's actually happening in Orlando, so it's very easy for me to get to.
Cool.
I don't know. I'm doing all kinds of stuff.
And I will see you at Stormwrecked in August, correct?
Yes,
sorry. It's not in August. It's in October.
Yes. Wait. Yes. It's both because it's like October 31st into like November.
It is October 30th to the 1st of November.
Okay. Yeah. So yes, I'll be there. I'll see you at Chariot as well.
Awesome.
So I don't remember when that is. August?
That is, let me see here. That is the end of August, the 28th of August through the 30th.
Perfect. And I think I'm an alien in that.
Oh, cool. All right, Kyle. So this is the last question I have for you, and I know you personally, so I know you're a very creative person. If you could choose the next greatest up-and-coming LARP idea, what would it be and why?
Oh. Is it one that already, am I supposed to be picking one that already exists, like throwing support behind it, or coming up with something totally new?
That's all in your mind.
I think probably what we're going to see happen that'll be really cool is the integration of technology into LARP. I've seen some LARPs kind of start to do this where you keep like character sheets on your phone and they find a way to integrate your phone. But I think at Gen Con, a friend of mine did this big LARPing thing that was cyberpunk, and they had to download an app, and it like helped lead them through stuff and gave them story tidbits. But then there was also NPCs, and they traveled around a lot. So I think that is a really cool thing. I think with things like Discord, a lot of games frequently now have kind of soft role play between games. So I just think the integration of technology into LARPing has some really cool possibilities. It might be a little while because time-wise and stuff, it can be hard to create all this extra stuff. But yeah, I just think that there's a lot of potential there.
Definitely expecting bigger and better things coming out of LARP. And I'm looking forward to going to all these events, especially with you. I want to thank you very much, Kyle, for taking the time to speak with us.
Yeah.
And guys, if you haven't already done so, check us out on LARP.com and LARPed on Facebook. Kyle, have a good evening.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.